Now, you're very welcome back. So we're very happy to welcome in Dermot Corrigan from The Athletic. Few things going on, Dermot, in your neck of the woods. In advance of the game in Paris last night, you were writing a piece for The Athletic about the relationship between Guardiola and Messi, which is a very interesting one, not without its complications. And then in Madrid, extraordinary scoreline at the Bernabeu, losing to FC Sheriff. So let's jump right in. Pep and Messi. He picked his moment to really rubber stamp his arrival at Paris, didn't he?
Hey, Joe. Yeah, was typical really of Messi, because whenever he's played against Guardiola, whether it was when Guardiola was at Bayern Munich or after Guardiola had joined Man City and Messi was still at Barcelona, he seemed to raise his game for those meetings against Pep, almost as if he wanted to show his old boss that he could still do it, that he was still the best player in the world, show everybody. He knew that when the eyes of the world were on him, he needed to step up and do it, and he did it again last night. All of the stuff that was around him coming off in the last game, whether his relationship with Pochettino was good, Neymar, Mbappe, everything that was going on, and then Messi steps up and scores a really typical Messi goal to win the game, or to make sure that PSG were going to win the game last night. So it was a pretty special moment.
Yeah, it was an amazing moment, really. So Pep Messi, 2008 to 2012, perhaps the greatest club side that we have ever seen, spearheaded by perhaps the greatest player that we've all ever seen. 14 major honours in that time, 08 to 2012. 14 major honours, 3 La Ligas, 2 Champions Leagues. Messi devastating in both finals, 2 World Club Cups as well. So what I'm getting to here, and I guess this is the headline really of the piece ultimately, and we'll chart some of the complications or the difficulties here and there, but the headline I would think is that they were good for each other. They owe each other a lot. This is a very positive relationship in both their lives.
Yeah, for sure. It just came along at the perfect time for both as well. When Guardiola stepped up, he had been at Barca as a player obviously, and then was Barca B coach, and came in and took over a team where Messi was just on the cusp of becoming the Messi that we all know now. But it wasn't. People didn't know then how it was going to work out. He just turned 21. Ronaldinho was still there. Deco, who was the kind of the team that had won the Champions League in 2006 under Frank Rijkaard, had kind of fallen away a little bit. Had lost their focus. Messi, everybody knew he was a great prospect, a great player, but he wasn't consistently delivering the way that he would. And straight away, as soon as Pep took over the job, he almost sole focus, no, but the main focus was to set things up for Messi to move on to the next step and to become the key player in the team and the key person at the club. That meant moving out other players. It meant changing the tactics. It meant telling people like Zlatan Ibrahimovic that he had to go, that Xavi and Iniesta, that their job was to get Messi the ball in the best positions. And Messi just exploded. Hadn't won a Ballon d'Or before Pep took over, won a Ballon d'Or in each of the years when he was working under Pep. And yeah, it really was a coming together of maybe the best coach in the game, the best player in the game. It's easy to say, but at that moment, everything just worked perfectly for them.
And Pep instigated this approach pretty much from the off, like even in his first pre-season with the team, a time when you might think he would be very keen to work with Messi and put some shape on the team. It was interesting in your piece, you pointed out that Messi was very eager to go and play with Argentina at the Olympics. Juan Laporte didn't want him to go, and Pep intervenes and convinces Barcelona to let Messi go and play for Argentina on the understanding that some short-term pain here will be worth it. In effect, really from minute one, Pep understood one of my primary objectives here is to keep Messi happy at all times.
Yeah, and it was clear that Messi was not going to be an easy player to coach either, because their first pre-season together back in 2008 was in St Andrews in Scotland. Messi was soaking at the time. He was involved in a bit of a spat with Belletti, maybe one of his teammates. He didn't react well when he just in a usual clash at training when he got kicked. Pep pulled him aside and said, what's going on here? And they had a chat about the Olympics. And it, probably for no other player, they would have made that Pep would have gone that far, would have gone to war or gone to battle with his president on behalf of the player. But it was clear, or Pep knew, that Messi was going to be this amazing player. He was going to be a sensitive guy, a difficult player to deal with. But if he kept him happy, kept him smiling, as he always said, if Messi is smiling, then Messi's going to play well and the team are going to do well. And that's how it worked out.
Dermot, your piece includes a couple of anecdotes which I think a lot of us are familiar with, namely the text message on the team bus about Zlatan, which we'll come to, and also one we had heard really early on, I think, in his time with Guardiola, which is around his diet and soft drinks and his love of Coke. And the story goes, and you can shed some light on it, that Pep is on at him about this increasingly, and Messi's stature is rising. So Messi, as Pep is talking, cracks open a can of Coke in the dressing room, and everyone looks over, and it's a little statement of, well, I'm the boss here as well. I'll still do things on my terms. Can you talk to us about that, when that happened, how much a point of friction this all was?
Yeah, well, Pep came in. One of the things that Pep was really keen to do when he came into the club was to professionalise everything in a way, or under Rijkaard, maybe the standards had slipped a little bit, or were never as high as Pep would have wanted in the previous years. People like Ronaldinho and Deco, off the field, their focus had wandered.
Yeah, I think they were definitely a party team at that stage.
Yeah, and Messi was, not that he was part of Ronaldinho's entourage, but he was attracted to that side of the game, as he would be. He was only a kid. Everything was kind of new to him at this stage. And Pep wanted to cut that out completely. And part of that was to get his diet, the cans of Coke, the chocolate peanuts, barbecues, all the things that Messi had been able to get away with before were suddenly not available. And because Pep needed the team to press, to be able to run as fast as they could, it was vital to the way that he wanted to play, to get everybody super fit. And if Messi was super fit, and if Messi was willing to run those extra kilometres each game to close down the opposition fullback, then everybody else in the team was going to have to do it. So for Pep, it was vital that he had Messi on side in that. Messi didn't particularly enjoy it, I think it's fair to say. And there's also there's a bit of the, Messi, and even when you speak to people who worked with him or know him or have had, good close dealings with him over the years, nobody tells you that they really know Messi, that they know what's going on in his head. He's such a internally focused guy. He doesn't share very much of what's going on, but he doesn't like to be challenged. He does have the pressure maybe to be the best player in the world. He puts on himself as well to be decisive in the games, and that with that comes then a feeling that he should be allowed maybe a little bit more to do what he wants. So he was kind of rubbing up against what Guardiola had put in. So the day that he asked Pep for a Coke, well, midway through the first season, when they were together, asked Pep, "Can you get a Coke?" Pep was like, "What are you talking about? We don't drink Coke here. This is Barcelona. This is impossible." But goes and gets it anyway, opens it in front of the rest of the players so everybody can see. And that was just the way it worked. That if had it, it's hard to imagine Xavi and Iniesta doing that type of thing. Like, they were the other kind of leaders in the team, but they were quieter guys, the schoolboys, as Zlatan called them in his book at one stage. But Messi was given the leeway to do it. They accepted that. They knew him as well, because they'd all seen him coming through the youth ranks together. They'd already known him for almost a decade at that stage. The kind of key players in the team, Puyol and Valdez as well. And whether Pep ever said to them, "Look, there's going to be one rule for Messi, one rule for everybody else," I don't think so. And he would have gone against a lot of the things that Pep believes in and wanted to do, but it was Messi. And there's another line in the piece, something about just Messi is a genius, and sometimes you're just going to have to put up with stuff. And at Barca, then they decided that they were. And then over time, more and more. But I guess that's something else to get into.
I mean, it's clear from his body shape and everything you hear that Messi eventually acquiesced, and his diet and his regime became fairly professional by any standards, really. You can see it in his body shape. It's almost like there's a sulker in Messi, and there's a no one's going to tell me what to do aspect to his personality, even if eventually he's going to do it.
Yeah, I'd go along with that 100%. Like, it was important to him to, again, we're kind of psychoanalyzing Messi, which is, a difficult thing to do, but it looks like he wanted to say, I can do what I want, but then he did follow Guardiola's instructions. And he did, especially in the biggest games, it was clear that he was working just as hard as everybody, and that did galvanise the rest of the team. And, especially in Clásicos or big Champions League games, he was often the guy who'd nick the ball back, win the ball back in the dangerous area for Barcelona, would go chasing down the Marcelo or whoever was the the opposition full back at the time. And Messi could see that it was working for him. He was getting results. He was scoring more goals all the time. He was getting more assists. He was involved in the game more and more. He was winning trophies. He was winning Ballon d'Ors. So that's what he wanted more than anything else, Messi. And this comes across if you do speak to some of the people who know him, that he really just wants to play football, score goals, win games, win trophies. Everything else is not that important to him. Well, like his family and everything's very important to him. But when it comes to football, he doesn't get involved too much in club politics, in who's going to be the president, who's going to be the coach. He's not that worried about that type of thing unless things start to go wrong. He's not winning games anymore. They're not winning trophies. And then he starts to point fingers. But when everything is going well, as it was under Guardiola, he went along with what Pep was asking.
I get the impression sometimes he doesn't get involved because he just has no regard for those people. Ultimately, he doesn't really respect their opinion. He's not interested in their opinion. Just stay out of my way. Don't do anything too ridiculous and I won't get too involved. Now, it turns out a lot of ridiculous things have happened there over the last decade or so. On, say, Zlatan, because that's, another interesting episode. And it gives an insight into Messi as well, and the personality and I guess the social skills to an extent. I mean, it's not like he's unhappy and therefore he says to Pep, well, I'll come and meet you in your office and let's discuss it like two adults and I'll try and express myself and get my opinions across. His behaviour with the text message on the bus, you can talk to us about it, but I mean, it's not much above the grade you'd expect from teenager in conflict resolution.
Yeah, again, that's a phrase I would have used as well, just to try and describe it, that it is that type of an idea that you can't, it's maybe more now, like we are talking about when he's 21, 22 at that point, may have been 22 when Zlatan came, but no, I think he was still 22, but he was still a young guy, and everything that he had done had been football. Like he moved to Barcelona when he was 11, and he lived, his family were separated, lived with his dad. He just played football all the time, or played PlayStation, lived in his tracksuit, didn't care about anything else. Like he didn't have the kind of socialization that most of us go through. Even a lot of players would go through, or somebody like Piqué or Cesc Fabregas, who are good talkers about the game, or have lived different life experiences in different countries. All of that kind of stuff. He didn't have that. He wasn't interested in it, and people were keen to keep him away from as many distractions as possible around the club, his coaches and the directors at Barcelona. So, he missed out on that kind of extra bit of education that maybe some people get, and his social skills weren't great. People knew to leave him alone. If he was in a bad mood, there's no point in going and asking him, what's wrong, can I help you? Let him sort it out. Let him play football. Let him, at training the next day, the stories about if somebody kicked him at training, or if he felt that the coach, I'm not sure if this was with Pep or one of the Barca coaches, when he felt that he had been fouled at training and the decision didn't go his way, then he, just picked up the ball and just was amazing at training for the rest of the day, scoring goals all over the place, not making people, showing off. Just his only way of communicating was to play football, was to get back on the pitch and do what he could do. That was his way of saying thanks to Pep as well on Pep's last game. Even though the relationship had its ups and downs by the time he left, Pep's last game at home to Espanyol, Messi scores all 4 goals. He couldn't really say goodbye in the way that maybe, rounded adults, if we can say that, kind of communicate to each other. His way was to score loads of goals for him, was to score in the Copa del Rey final as well that year. And then again last night, like, what does he do when he's meeting up with his old friends again? He scores this amazing goal, brings back the memories of the type of goals that he used to score.
Zlatan joins in 2009, and the text on the team bus when he and Pep are in different seats, obviously, is, well, I see I'm no longer important for the team, so ... I don't know what the so means. I'm going to leave, or, you don't love me anymore, or, we've come to an end. But it's an ultimatum of sorts. And Pep responds in the only way Pep was going to respond, which is, I'm really sorry, Zlatan. And that effectively, bombs Zlatan's career. It's a messy text message, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's basically how it worked, really, is that, if Pep knew that Messi was going to be unhappy, Pep could also see, if Pep had thought that Zlatan was going to be more useful to him than Messi, then it would have been Messi who would have been bombed out. But Messi had that good fortune, I guess, that, he was always going to be the most important player in the team. And the rest of the guys around him, people like Xavi and Iniesta didn't have that type of an ego that Zlatan had, and those players who did have that type of ego or who needed this special treatment, they just weren't going to be able to get it under Pep, especially. Maybe later on in his Barca career that ended up becoming a problem, but at that time Messi, if he wanted something, then he was going to get it, especially when it came to the team.
You were saying in the piece that Pep would go out for dinners with a number of the players, the key players. So Xavi, I'm sure they had long dinners where they talked about Cruyff, and for a fair portion of it, I mean, how great Barcelona was and how great they were and how the rest of the footballing world was so uncultured. I'd say they were fun dinners in their own way to listen in on. Messi, that wasn't the case. It's not like Pep and Messi were out for dinners. The communication seems to have been very pointed, no extracurricular information required. I mean, keep it minimal, and Pep cottoned onto that pretty quickly. So they weren't sitting around having philosophical discussions about football, which, you know, I'm sure was a big part of that period of Barcelona, and the likes of Xavi was doing that. Pep, Messi, presumably because Messi's not that interested in doing that, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's a good line from Guardiola that he says at that stage that the best way to deal with Messi is to speak little to him and to listen to the little that he says. And that was how it worked. Tactical instructions, he did ask him to do things on the pitch. It wasn't that he just let Messi, off, especially at the start, and just take up whatever positions he wanted in the pitch. He had a plan for each game. He would have spoken to all of the players. We know how rigorous and detailed Pep's dissection of opponents is about, whether the left back struggles when the ball's on his right foot or whatever. Yeah. Messi would have been given those little tidbits of information and would have been able to use them, but in a kind of a assimilate them naturally kind of a way, not in a, as I say, like that you go and spend a long time with diagrams and iPad and videos and everything to show it. Just a little, watch out for the left back. If he's got the ball on his right foot, then hit him.
And Dermot, do we know? Again, did it ever get to a stage where Messi had total freedom on a pitch regarding Pep's instructions?
No, that's never going to happen in a Guardiola team. But it did tend in that direction. But by the end of, in his final season, Messi, made 77 goals, I think, in all competitions. But I found, just looking back on it, like a story that Martí Pernarau, who's Pep's biographer, who's really close to Guardiola, had written at the time during their last season, saying that Barca used to play through Xavi and now they just play for Messi. And they had started to look for him all the time, which is inevitable, really. If Messi's doing so much great stuff, you start to give him the ball, maybe in situations where it's good for him, but not so much for the team. And then on the off chance that he doesn't do well in a certain game, or if he only scores one goal instead of two goals, then the team might drop points, might lose, and that's what happened at the end. That they lost out to Mourinho's Madrid in the La Liga title race. Messi missed that penalty against Chelsea, and Guardiola was gone a few days later.
Yeah, I mean, it was just extraordinary in that period. It was just, you had to watch Barcelona, you had to watch Messi. It was history before your eyes. It was so good. And as you said, that final season, that 2012 season, you take the season before Guardiola arrives, and Messi's 20 admittedly, but it's 16 goals and 16 assists. And then you take maybe the greatest individual season we've ever seen, 2012, 77 goals and 36 assists. Like, the numbers are just astronomical. We'd never seen the likes of them before. Somebody makes the point to you in the piece, which I would question. Not that I'm saying Guardiola was bad for Messi by any means. He was very, 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 very good for Messi. But somebody says that the jump wouldn't have happened without Guardiola. Now, I think it's very possible Barcelona wouldn't have reached the heights that they reached without Guardiola and the football he instilled. And he was ahead of the curve, clearly, in European football. And the tactics he implemented there have been copied the world over. I mean, every club in Europe now effectively has split centre-backs and is mimicking a lot of the things Guardiola brought in as revolutionary at the time. So this is not a slight in Guardiola. This is more about Messi's greatness. So somebody says the jump wouldn't have happened without Guardiola. I think really whoever's managing Messi, once they're not letting him hang out with Ronaldinho every night, and once they're just doing most of the basics right, I think we are talking about a level of genius here that would have burst through and been what it was regardless. Obviously easier to do in a winning team, but I don't know, I wouldn't give anyone too much credit for Messi. Messi is just a different level to anyone else.
Yeah, That's definitely true, and who knows? I guess that the point it will be that it's because he had got the rest of the team to such a level that Messi was able to explode on top of it, and also what we were saying, that in his way he was able to get Messi to work harder off the ball than he had before, to focus, to eat better, to focus his life a little bit better. Who knows what would have happened if it had been. I don't know what if Mourinho. That's it's the big sliding doors moment. Is that Mourinho was up for the job when Guardiola was coming in. If Mourinho had to take it over Barca, it sounds crazy, but looking back at it now, because they're so like opposed ideas, and Mourinho seems to stand for against everything that Barca stands for. But it might have happened, and who knows what would happen with Messi then. Yeah,
that's a fair point. God, that would have been interesting to see. Not good, I think. Not as good, certainly, as it was. Just a last one on the pair of them. So post their time together, Peps burnt out completely. 4 years, he says, is an eternity at Barcelona. Goes off for his year away in New York, and it seems they keep in touch sporadically. We're not talking blood brothers here. We're not talking checking in every week, but yeah, an open line of contact here or there.
Yeah, Guardiola made a big deal of putting space between himself and everybody at Barcelona when he left. And Tito Villanova took over as coach, which led to a problem in his relationship to colleagues who had worked so closely together. But Guardiola didn't want to be hanging over everybody at the Camp Nou, so it was 3 years before he came back to attend a game. And yeah, when the elite footballers, when they see each other, they whether it's a FIFA gala or a sponsors event or a Champions League final or whatever it is, they will be happy to see each other and have a chat. My understanding of it is, but they wouldn't be seeking each other out to go on holidays together, or to just call up and have a chat just to see how you were getting on. Messi doesn't tend to do that very much with people. Maybe more now with his Argentina mates. Some stuff that didn't go into the pieces. How he has kind of he has matured a lot over the time, and he does seem more interested in team spirit and in being like. From when he was Barca captain, there was very kind of bad atmosphere around the club, obviously. But with Argentina, he's more open to speaking to the younger players. He plays more of an adult role, I guess, around the camp. But again, with Guardiola, there's their ex-workmates, if they see each other, they'll be happy to see each other. But it's not something that they catch up regularly.
Well, people can read the piece on The Athletic. Really interesting relationship, and another little mini installment last night, I suppose. Another amazing moment between the pair of them. Not one I suspect Pep loved. Before you go, Real Madrid beaten at the Bernabeu by FC Sheriff, who are an interesting story themselves, by the way. They're from a de facto republic post the collapse of the Soviet Union. Tiny sliver of land between Moldova and Ukraine, playing the Moldovan Championship. And much of Moldova is very poor when it comes to football investment. Even the top division sides playing sports pitches rented from municipal authorities. Sheriff, they are sponsored by the Sheriff Company, which has an annual turnover double the state budget. So they have a $200 million arena, and they've won 20 of the last 22 titles. So kind of an interesting situation there over in Transdniester, which is not necessarily recognised by everyone, but it's a de facto republic all the same. As for Madrid, they are top of La Liga, 5 wins, 2 draws from their 7 games so far, Dermot. Looking at the team last night, Casemiro in midfield. The front three was Hazard, Benzema and Vinicius, which is not to be sniffed at all. Ancelotti is at the helm. And yet you do look at, probably because of the devastation of Barcelona in particular, but you do look at La Liga and you look at Real Madrid, and it really just feels like it's very much on a down curve, and maybe an Mbappe arrival puts it on the map again in a real way. But it's hard to look at Madrid and get too excited or be too attracted to the glamour there when you see what was going on over in Paris last night by comparison.
For sure. Madrid very much a work in progress at the minute. Ancelotti, since he's come back, he's been very clear that it's a different squad, a different setup, different ambitions than when he took over the first time and won the Champions League in his first season. The Madrid have been scoring a lot of goals so far this season, and he's got them playing very positive football, right. Partly because he knows they don't defend very well. They're missing Ramos and Varane are gone. They've had injuries at full back as well. Alba's come in and done okay, but they conceded 3 times against Levante a few weeks ago. Courtois has been maybe their best player so far this season, made a lot of saves. So there's very much a work in progress. Like last night was a freak result in a lot of ways. And like Madrid had like 31 shots at goal, 13 on target, something like that. Just wouldn't go in for them. But there is a pattern there. They've lost at home last year to Shakhtar Donetsk when they were playing at their training ground in the Champions League. They lost to CSKA Moscow a couple of seasons back. They were 2-0 down to Bruges last season or recently as well. They're not the European superpower that they were for sure. They can get it together. Those guys, Benzema, Hazard, Ramos, when he was there, were able to come together kind of on the big occasions. But week to week, they're not at it really, and it's going to be difficult. Yeah, La Liga is like we're those times with Pep and Messi and Barca and Mourinho and Ronaldo and all the guys at Madrid. It's a long time ago now. Even just putting together the piece, you do think about that it was an amazing time to be here, to be covering football, to be around Spanish football. Whereas at the moment is a transitional phase, I think is fair to say.
Yeah.